Hear ye, hear ye. It is 6 o'clock, so I must call the Village of Terrace Port Council meeting of January 14, 2025 to order. If you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic.
one nation, under God,
Mrs. Lyons, would you please call the roll?
Okay.
Done.
Good timing, John.
Gasky.
Here.
Ingebrigtsen. Here. Lehman. Here. LeMay.
Here.
Lindell.
Here.
Sharp.
Here.
All here and accounted for. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from December 11. Has everyone had a chance to review? Is there any corrections, suggestions, or deletions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, coming in hot, John, I love it.
No rest.
That's right. Are there any residents out there that would like to address council on any item that you'd like to bring before us? If so, please come to the podium, give us your name and your address, and tell us what it is you want us to hear. Seeing none. We're going to do things a little bit different, council, if you wouldn't mind. I think that I'm going to give part of my remarks because some of them I think are appropriate to the items that we may advance on the agenda, if that's okay. This is the biggest crowd I think we've ever had. This is bigger than the mandatory government class that the seniors have to come to every year. So I won't make any of you come up and tell us your name and what it is that you're thinking about going postgraduate, but this is super exciting. This is exciting for us. We never really get much, if any, fanfare. It must be that there's something really, really important happening tonight, and I think that there are many things important that are happening. What brings, I think, everyone here today, other than just wanting to watch really good and efficient government at work, is we need to make an appointment of a new fire chief after the passing of Chief Schonsfeld. Very unexpected, and because of that, we found ourselves without a fire chief for a short period of time. And I want to take this time to thank John Maggard, Chief Maggard, for the time being, for his willingness to step in, assist the village not only as the fire chief, but also the EMS chief, and probably our most tireless and best volunteer that we have. So I promised you very quickly that I would get you fired. And if you bear with us, that will occur here in just a few minutes. But from me, the residents, and everyone else, thank you, and I'd like to give you a round of applause. So when we went about this search for a new fire chief, I didn't want to take anything for granted. I mean, when you sit in this chair, you think that you're ready for a lot of things, and there's a lot of things that aren't in the handbook that you get on, how to deal with the untimely death of a great public servant, friend, father, dad, brother, etc. And you think that some of the answers are very obvious to you, but I didn't want to take anything for granted. Technically, the fire chief is appointed by the mayor with the consent of council. So to maybe the frustration of some, I wanted to go about this ignorant, assuming I know nothing about the people that are eligible for the job, and taking the time to talk to people, solicit input, solicit interest. And I want to thank Jerry for being part of that process, for organizing the meetings, sitting through those with us. I want to thank Lauren. She was there every step of the way, talking to people, getting input from obviously people that are currently on staff, and I even talked to people who are no longer on staff, whose opinion I valued greatly. So we went through, I don't remember how many meetings, so many hours worth of conversations and deliberations and thoughts, and it became very clear to me, which perhaps was very obvious from the start, but again, I took nothing for granted, that there was one candidate that by and large was the overwhelming recommendation by all of his peers for the job of chief, and that is George Hefner. So I'm very, very excited here in a moment to introduce the ordinance, or have them introduce the ordinance that would put you in that position. And then what will follow are the appointments of the people that the process was started with Chief Stronsfeld. Having a new chief put in there, we thought that it would be a good idea to allow that person to have their particular input on this. And I'm pleased to say, by and large, things remained almost the same as was originally planned. They're not identical. Again, you put somebody in a job and they're going to have a little bit different opinions on people, but the opinion was never that somebody wasn't ready for the job or qualified. But before that, and because we're making some of these changes, we do have some housekeeping that we need to do. So if it would be okay with council, I think I'll turn it over to Judy on this ordinance, that we have to alter our codified ordinances to make room for some of these potential positions.
Thank you. So I would like to introduce an ordinance that changes the structure of the staffing of the fire department, including the number of members of the fire department. So today I would like to introduce and advance to the third reading ordinance number January 1/1/2025, ordinance amending section 3501B of the Terrace Park codified ordinances regarding the composition of the fire department.
Second?
Gasky.
Aye.
Ingebrigtsen.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Lemay.
Aye.
Lindell.
Aye.
Sharp.
Aye. And I'd like to move to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
Second.
Gasky.
Aye.
Ingebrigtsen.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Lemay.
Aye.
Lindell.
Aye.
Sharp.
Aye.
All right, I've signed that. Now we have room. Let's fill it. Mrs. Ingebrigtsen, do you have something as it relates to the fire chief?
I do, yep. Before I get started, though, quickly, I just want to say how grateful I am to everyone that we spoke with, and to George in particular, for all of your volunteer hours and your dedication to this community. As a member of council, you make this job so much easier, and as a resident, I sleep better at night after having talked to each of you, feeling confident that our neighborhood is in really good hands. So with that, I would like to introduce and advance to the third reading, resolution number 1-1/2025, consent of council to the appointment by the mayor of George Hefner to the position of fire chief of the village of Terrace Park.
Second.
Gasky.
Aye.
Ingebrigtsen.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Lemay.
Aye.
Lindell.
Aye.
Sharp.
Aye.
And I move to adopt the resolution as an emergency.
Second.
Gasky.
Aye.
Ingebrigtsen.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Lemay.
Aye.
Lindell.
Aye.
Sharp.
Aye.
George, please come to the podium. This is the photo op time. Would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, George Hefner,
I, George Hefner,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
will discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of fire chief
of Fire Chief
for the village of Terrace Park, Ohio.
for the village of Terrace Park, Ohio.
Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Here you go.
Thanks, Tommy.
Now that we got you, we're going to work you.
They didn't tell you that, right?
Anything else we need to do, Mrs. Ingebrigtsen?
Yes, sir. The next one, the official title just calls out various officers. So before I read it, I just want to take a moment to individually recognize each of the people that we are naming to the officer corps for our fire department. And they are Assistant Chief John Maggard, Assistant Chief Ty Zimmerman, Captain Chris Dixon, Captain Chris Pageant, Captain Mickey List, Lieutenant Mike Kaplan, Lieutenant Craig Russell, and Engineer Kyle Lehman. So I would like to introduce and advance to the third reading, resolution number 1-2-2025, consent of council to the appointment by the mayor of various officers in the volunteer fire department of the village of Terrace Park.
Second?
Gasky.
Aye.
Ingebrigtsen.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Lemay.
Aye.
Lindell.
Aye.
Sharp.
Aye.
And I move to adopt the resolution as an emergency.
Second.
Gasky.
Aye.
Ingebrigtsen.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Lemay.
Aye.
Lindell.
Aye.
Sharp.
Aye.
Congratulations. All right, we've got a few of these to do, so I think we'll do them individually because I think they're that important. Let's start with the assistant chiefs. John, beauty before age, of course. We'll start with you. No, we're going to do them individually. I think you've earned it and you deserve it. All right. Raise your right hand. I, John Maggard,
I, John Maggard,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my
will
ability,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Assistant Chief
of Assistant Chief
for the Village of Terrace Park Fire Department.
for the Village of Terrace Park Fire Department.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you for your service. Brilliant.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Ty, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Ty Zimmerman,
I, Ty Zimmerman,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
will discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of Assistant Chief
of Assistant Chief
for the Terrace Park Fire Department.
for the Terrace Park Fire Department.
Congratulations, sir. If I can see you through here. Very good, thanks. Captains. Let's start with Chris Dixon. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Chris Dixon,
I, Chris Dixon, to
to the best of my ability,
the best of my ability,
will discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of Captain
of Captain
for the Village of Terrace Park Fire Department.
for the Village of Terrace Park Fire Department.
Congratulations, sir. Right there. Thank you. Mr. List. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Mickey List,
I, Mickey List,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
will discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of Captain
of Captain
for the Terrace Park Fire Department.
for the Terrace Park Fire Department.
Congratulations, thank you. Chris, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Chris Pageant,
I, Chris Pageant,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
will discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of Captain
of Captain
for the Terrace Park Fire Department.
for the Terrace Park Fire Department.
Thank you, sir. I had to learn the hierarchy. Now it's lieutenants. Let's start with Mike. I raise your right hand. I, Mike Kaplan,
I, Mike Kaplan,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
will discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of Lieutenant
of Lieutenant
for the Terrace Park Fire Department.
for the Terrace Park Fire Department.
Thanks. Thank you. Craig, you ready for this? Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Craig Russell,
I, Craig Russell,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my abilities,
will discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of Lieutenant.
of Lieutenant of the Terrace Park Fire Department.
Yes, sir. Figured it out. I think that leaves one more. This would be for engineer. You could probably repeat it.
Yeah,
Raise
I
your right
got it.
hand.
Almost.
Good. Here you go. I, Kyle Lehman,
I, Kyle Lehman,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my
will
ability,
discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of engineer
of engineer
for the Terrace Park Fire
for the
Department.
Terrace Park Fire Department.
Here you go.
Thank you.
That is. I think that is. If you guys, you're welcome to stay for the entire rest of the show. But you're not expected to, but if you'd like to, we're happy to have you, but understanding that people have lives and other things to do, and we're going to take enough of your time going forward, so not a problem.
Intermission.
What?
We need an intermission.
Usually we just leave it here, unless you want to keep it. Agenda for tonight.
George.
So, you know,
He's got some work to do, so he has to come back. He's got a report to give.
Actually get a group picture, is that okay?
You did? Yeah. All right. One day off.
One day off. Next month, I got you.
Thanks, George.
Thanks. Thanks, George.
We have a group picture before they all head out?
Nobody wants a picture of me. If you guys want to get it.
I don't want to be in it, I'm
I
talking
don't
about
want
them.
to be in it. They're going to go do it.
Go get them out.
over in the nice building.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff Carl. If you could, Jeff. If somebody gets a good picture, will you, somebody text it to me?
Yeah, we're gonna get one at the far rest.
Will you text it to me? Thanks.
You can start your party pretty soon. We're almost gone.
Then there is no one.
That's great. That'll work. Organize that.
Pardon?
All right.
Work to organize that. It was good.
Yeah.
Back to normal.
A little bit more work to be done. You'd like to go out on a high note, but that was exciting. That was pretty cool. Probably never get to do that again. So, nope, not. I said most of my remarks. I do need to remark that we had some nasty snow, and the crew did a unbelievable job, basically on a fool's errand. They couldn't catch up to keep up with it. Boy, they kept trying, and the place looked great as soon as they can get on top of it. And I want to thank them for their hard work and for continuing to make the village safe and navigable. So, other than that, that is the end of my report. Chief Fiscal Officer, Mrs. Lyons.
No report.
Solicitor, Mr. Forbes.
You know, all those people were here. I thought they were going to get to see me give a good report, but they left. But actually, I did want to mention one thing. The governor did recently sign House Bill 315, which mostly made changes to township law. But there was one thing kind of buried in there that's relevant to any public agency about the public record law. In particular, police departments that have, and I know you don't have body-worn cameras, but you do have in-car cameras.
Right.
And sometimes those videos are requested as public record, and sometimes we have to make redactions to those videos. And in the past, we've just had to do it, no matter how long it takes or how expensive the software is or how the manpower it takes. But House Bill 315 actually made a change to the public records law for the first time, only with respect to law enforcement video records, where you can actually charge requesters for the cost, which could include the personnel time to actually prepare copies of those videos, because it's much more complicated than just
Copy and paper.
making a photocopy of a piece of paper. So it just happened, and there aren't many agencies. Well, there are some agencies that have body-worn cameras, and it will apply primarily to them. But to the extent that people ever ask for the in-car video, we do have something at our disposal now to help defray those costs.
Heck of a report.
Well, you know, I knew there were going to be a lot of people here tonight, and I wanted to have something to say.
It's their
Probably
miss.
still watching.
Right, that's true.
Well, it's revenue generating. It's a revenue generator. I mean, we could advertise to sell our videos, I guess, or no?
We don't have
Well, it's much less than a revenue generator. It barely will help cover the cost.
Probably doesn't.
Probably
even do
true.
that.
Right. That's all I have.
That's it?
That's it.
Clerk of Council, Mrs. Lyons.
No report. Thank you.
EMS and only EMS Chief, John Mack.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the acknowledgement and the attention given to the rest of the staff. I know it's appreciated by one and all. Had a couple of weather-related adventures in the ambulance last week. But other than that, I put a report on everybody's place. Just a summary. I haven't done an annual report in a number of years, so this is just kind of a annual report light. Just kind of an overview of what EMS did this year. And if you guys have any questions about any of this, feel free to chime in. Other than that, looking forward to the class starting on Tuesday, the 21st. We have a total of 8 people who are, at this point, said that they are anxious to run with us. Cincinnati State will bring in at least 2 other people to round out the class.
Is that 8 in our village?
2 of the people are actually medical students at Xavier, but plan on running with us. We have another person that went through the course last year who's doing the same thing. She's coming in and when she can. It's a great place to do homework.
Yeah.
That's end of my report.
Great. Well, given the fact that you were fire chief up until 6:10, do you have anything to report on that front?
Current fire chief assures me that he has no report, but we'll have something next month.
Appreciate it much. Police chief, village administrator, Colonel Hayhoe.
Thanks, Your Honor. I just want to expound on what you said before. The maintenance guys each had 46 hours of overtime for the last 2 snows. So that was what, like Sunday, Monday, then Friday, Saturday. So each of them had 46 hours of overtime. And they put down 144,000 pounds of salt. Excuse me. So 72 tons. So I've been on the phone with Morton. I've ordered 100 tons to replace what we've used, so.
Just sign the check.
So how many
Thank you,
tons
and
did
thank you
we
for
have
that.
in there?
Please?
They used 72 tons? How many tons did we have?
About that.
Okay.
We had a little more. I mean,
So they used everything we had?
we knew it was kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were concerned about the snow that was starting on Friday night, but we were lucky enough. I called it Monday morning, or Tuesday morning, and they brought it out Thursday. So Dave was going, shoo. So we're set to go for another one. So, and you know, obviously with the weather, Duke has delayed their start. They did a little work down in the yard down there where they're going to store the equipment, but that's all. They haven't brought in any material or anything. So, and that's the end of my report.
Great. You guys did a great job. I think one snowstorm and snow day was fun, but I'm kind of done with it, so let's just hope it doesn't happen again. Any member of council outside of their committees? Hearing none, planning and zoning, Mr. Gasky.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. No report this evening.
Finance, Mr. Lemay. Happy birthday, Mr. Lemay.
Happy birthday.
Unnecessary. Thank you. I'd like to give an update on our village finances. In your folder, you should see a graph. Now I've got copies. Here, you have one, John? Yep, yeah, okay, good. This goes back to 2001. The yellowish line is our expenses. And our green line is our revenue. Of course, you want revenue over our expenses. The most important line for me and what we manage against is the red line. The red line is our ending balance on hand, December 31st, right? And the rule of thumb and what we want to manage against is good government and being conservative in how we manage our funds is to maintain a minimum of 6 months of cash on hand, 6 months of spending cash on hand. That's the red dotted line below that. So the good news is that red line dipped up or increased from 2024, meaning we increased our balance on hand to 8.7 months. That's good. The other key notes here, let me see if there's anything else here I want to point out. let me go to the next, which is, any questions on this? No, okay. Tabular data, this is the red-green file. This will make your eyes cross, but if you look at, I've done comparisons every year on the key measurements, beginning fund, revenue, expenditures, and ending fund in terms of dollars. These are measured in thousands. So you add 3 zeros to each one of these numbers. Where you see green, that's a good thing. Where you see red, it indicates a reduction versus previous. So you'll see 3 green boxes there, which is encouraging. So the story behind these numbers was revenue was $24,000 higher than it was last year. Spending, however, was $160,000 less than the previous year. Now, the previous year included our remaining ARPA COVID funding. So we spent some money last year out of those funds to fix up some things on Jerry's to-do list. We also spent about $43,000 of remaining funds this year on some of the things you're seeing in this building, and Jerry, the Elm Terrace work, versus our 2024 budget, we underspent by $170,000 and received more funds than budgeted by almost $240,000, right? So I haven't done real detailed work, but the 4 areas where we received more money than we budgeted was in property and local taxes. So it was about $60,000 of that 240. I think from the last 3 years, we've had a number of home sales, a high number in 21, 22, and 23. These are 6 months in arrear, but a number of those houses, and when I counted, it was over 50 houses, I think, maybe 45 houses that were sold, low basis. And these are houses that have been in ownership hands for 10, 15, 20 years plus. That sold, bought at a higher price, so a new basis, and residents are taxed on the new higher basis. And we can expect that money going forward. The water assessment, we ended up with $80,000 in our water assessment. I think that was only 2 quarters, might have been 3. But know that that money is earmarked for the Elm Street water line. So by the time we get around, and Jerry and I have reopened our work with the engineering firm, the consulting firm, to get going. We have 2 things we need to deliver: a budget plan we owe to the government, and a project plan, and some EPA requirements we've got to fulfill. So Jerry and I are working on that, and we're targeting late 2025. So that money, $80,000, should be $160,000, maybe as high as $180,000, $190,000, and we're going to earmark that towards the water line. Earnings on cash was $65,000, better than what we budgeted. So thank you for Katie for her for investment strategy. But that money is at risk. If interest rates drop, which they haven't, the 10-year bond has gone up a full basis point in the last month. But if those drop, we wouldn't receive those kind of revenues going forward. And the last one was the tree assessment, was $18,000 higher than what we budgeted. The one point I want to make, and again, I always credit Jerry and Katie and John, the departments, for this. We have over 100 UAN, this is the software you use, cost centers. So major ones and then subheadings. So for Jerry and police, it would be salaries, benefits, capital, supplies, et cetera. We have under 100 of these. Not one of these cost centers was overspent in 2024. I made the comment last time we talked budget, I wish I could do that at my house. It's much more complex what you guys are dealing with. So Katie and Jerry, your due diligence and ownership there is really paying dividends for us. And most important, our cash on hand increased by 1 full day to 8.7, a balance of almost $1.8 million. The other comment I want to make, it's been 11 years since we've had a Terrace Park levy, new levy on the ballot, increasing our taxes. And I think that's speaks well, again, of how you've managed our money, John and Jerry and Katie. So, any questions on this data? The summary is we're on sound footing and good hands. We are going to meet on I think the 21st as a finance committee to talk a 10-year budget outlook and what we might consider going forward. So, end of my report.
Great. And that meeting is at 6:30 on the 21st.
That's correct.
Nice work.
Don't look at me.
Well, nice work to everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Buildings and Grounds, Mrs. Sharp.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Rules and Law, Mrs. Lehman, I think you still have something else to do.
I do. We do have an ordinance that we are bringing forward tonight related to the prohibition of cannabis operators in Terrace Park. Are there any questions?
Just by way of background, if I recall, we enacted a moratorium. And then this is a follow-up that basically says, no, thank you, not in our village.
Exactly. The point of the moratorium was to take the time to review the issue, analyze it, come up to some conclusion. This is the result of that, that would prohibit them. I will say, and this does prohibit them. What you will see at some point in the future, though, Jerry and I have talked about this, is when we prohibited medical marijuana dispensaries, we made that part of our zoning code. So we will follow up with an amendment to the zoning code just to add this in there as well. But that's kind of a belt and suspenders kind of thing. This ordinance, if adopted, will prohibit it.
Then what would be the reason to take that belt and suspenders approach?
Well, either you need to go back to your zoning code, and you probably want your zoning code to be consistent both with medical marijuana and the new adult use cannabis. So it's either go in and add this as a prohibited use, or go in and remove the references to the medical marijuana, but that's the only place where we prohibited the medical marijuana, so it's probably just a matter of consistency. And we have some other kind of housekeeping cleanup things in the zoning code that we're going to be, and so we'll just kind of bring it all through at the same time. But none of that would impact the effectiveness of this ordinance.
And just to be clear on the language, we're not talking about the use of, we're talking about the distribution of.
Exactly. Actually, under state law, you don't have any authority to regulate the use of, that's all governed by state law. This is only about the dispensaries or other operators. They'd be prohibited from locating here.
There you go. Any thoughts?
Okay, with that, I would like to introduce and advance to the third reading, ordinance number 1-2, 2025, prohibiting adult use cannabis operators within the village of Terrace Park, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Geske?
Aye.
Ingebrigtsen?
Aye.
Lehman?
Aye.
Lemay?
Aye.
Lindell?
Aye.
Sharp?
Aye.
And I move to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
Second?
Geske?
Aye.
Ingebrigtsen?
Aye.
Lehman?
Aye.
Lemay?
Aye.
Lindell?
Aye.
Sharp?
Aye.
Thank you. Good work.
Now I have to do something now.
Anything
Zoning.
further?
Thanks for the job. My turn.
Anything further?
No, thank you. That's the end of my report.
She's passing the baton to me for
Over
zoning.
to zoning.
Yeah.
And various and sundry other cleanups.
Exactly. Right.
That's a lot more work changing the zoning code.
Yeah.
Public Works, Mr. Lindell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, no report.
Public Safety, Mrs. Ingebrigtsen.
Nothing further this evening, thank you.
All right, brings us to number 8 on the agenda, that's continued business. Any new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Great.